SmartB Sports Update Podcast is brought to you by Optimum CBD. For all your rest and recovery needs, CBD products are your best bet. Go to optimumcbd.store to order now. Free delivery on all orders over $99. You must be over 18 to order. I use Optimum CBD products personally for my rest and recovery. I train 6 days a week in Jiu-Jitsu, as you've probably heard on the SmartB Sports Update Podcast. I teach, I train, I compete. And without Optimum CBD products, I wouldn't be able to do it. Optimum CBD for all your rest and recovery needs.
Morning, John. Yeah, there's a theme to our rundown today. I wonder what that might be. Yeah, no prizes for guessing.
They're bye this week, right?
No, they're playing Parramatta on Easter Monday.
Oh, producer John forgot his coffee and he wants it. Left my coffee.
Oh, right.
Looks like the Eels might get their second win of the year. Because if there's one thing the Tigers are unable to do is handle off-field news articles from an unnamed source. I think we've established that over the past 8 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, this whole circus started on Monday morning at 11 o'clock. A bomb dropped out of nowhere, this club statement from the West Tigers. It's a short statement, so I'll just read it out. It says, "We would like to announce that Lachlan Galvin will not be with the club beyond the 2026 season," it says. And then it says, "Despite the club having the largest contract offer for a junior in the history of the club on the table, Lachlan and his management have decided his future lies elsewhere and were not willing to review the offer." It then read, "It should be noted that the club has no intention of releasing Lachlan from his contract, and he has not requested this. Obviously, there will be a lot of speculation around this release, but we will make no further comment. The club is focused on winning as many games as possible during Lachlan's tenure and beyond. The club is disappointed, but we move on." Now, if we start off here, and there are a lot of Lachlan Galvin items on our rundown today, as you would expect. Mm-hmm. I think this was a bit too sort of salty and sooky, this statement. They didn't need to say that they, despite the club having the largest contract offer for a junior in the history of the club on the table, that didn't need to be included. That was unnecessary information, and I thought that was very salty, sooky, and unprofessional.
All of the people who work at rugby league clubs are ex-rugby league players, and none of them really know how to handle their emotions very well. Because that was their response, right? So the actual article, the actual news came out all over Twitter and Reddit and stuff that Lachlan Galvin wouldn't be taking up an offer with the Tigers, and then the Tigers released a statement to clarify.
This was them trying to get control of the, and I hate this word, it was them trying to get control of the narrative.
Donald Trump, bro. Because the narrative was already out there that, I saw it on Reddit, on Twitter, on Instagram, on everything. Lachlan Galvin was leaving, he was unhappy with the coaching. He had already been offered, or the West Tigers had already tried to put forward the biggest offer ever, and him and his manager weren't having a bar of it. And then the statement came. All of the information was already out, and so it's like you said, it's a little bit sooky. They tried to get ahead of it and control the narrative.
See that where they say we would like to announce he will not be with the club. All right, that's fine. It should be noted that the club has no intention of releasing him from his contract. That's fine, because they need to get that out there. Otherwise, the media will go nuts about that. So that's fair enough. That's about all. They didn't need to say the club is disappointed, but we move on. They didn't need to put that out in a club statement. This line about it being the largest contract offer, even if that's true, why are they putting that out there? He's decided he's not taking the deal, so that was a very salty a very salty move from Tigers management, and they do have a history of putting out odd club statements. Remember when Luke Brooks played in a finals game with Manly, and they put out a statement congratulating him for playing a finals game, even though he was doing it for a different club because he never played in a finals game at the Tigers. So there's a history there of the Tigers just making PR missteps, and I don't know who works in their PR department, but I don't know whether they'd be getting too many other jobs. Whoever works in their PR department.
Michael Chambers, Dan Walsh, and Danny Weidler published a story on the Sydney Morning Herald at 10:43 a.m. and then it was
it was 10:59. The club statement came out.
16 minutes later.
They
released their because the story had everything like that. Benji and what's his name, Isaac Moses don't get along. Shane Richardson wouldn't comment. Apparently Galvin and Moses wouldn't even listen to the offer. 6-year extension. What's it called? Phil Gould had been courting Galvin in the media for years. Like all of it was in the news article, and then the Tigers released a statement 15 minutes later. So it was kind of like a bit of a tanty. It seemed like they chucked. But it's just more again of the Tigers. Like they've won half the amount of games this year that they did last year. They're currently sitting in the 8, and now they have off-field drama, and it's just ongoing. Like the fact that he's gone to them and said, "I'm not going to be here beyond 2026." is the most bizarre thing ever. He's not even allowed to negotiate with other clubs until November 1 this year. And he's already decided that he thinks he can get more money or, for whatever reason, at another club at November 1 this year to go there the following year.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just a complete circus, isn't it? I mean, what's he going to do? Play in New South Wales Cup for 2 years?
Yeah, well, how's he going to get his $1 million a year contract from the New South Wales Cup? You know, it's still flow-on effect, I believe, from the Dylan Brown deal. That's kind of upheaving this. Where now player agents see a lot of value in their halfbacks, because if Dylan Brown can get $1.3 million, then Lachlan Galvin can get $1 million from the Tigers, and he can probably go get $1 million from somewhere else.
And I'll tell you who'd be loving Lachlan Galvin right now, Dylan Brown and Daly Cherry Evans. All of a sudden, they've been completely forgotten about those two.
Way more crazy, right?
Yeah, well, we thought DCE was the biggest story of the year. It's been trumped in a big way this week by the Galvin story. So many layers to this story, and as you would expect, it's got a very heavy presence on our rundown today.
Yeah, and so after the announcement and his behaviour, apparently Benji Marshall made him front the team and explain his decision. This is just the rumours, and all of it's unnamed source. Again with the Tigers, unnamed source, unnamed source, unnamed source. Benji Marshall,
so someone's leaking.
Front the team, explain his decision, and the team just wasn't having a bar of it. They were all clearly really upset with him. And then he was going to be named this week. And then Jerome Luai and Api Coruscant, two ex-Panthers players, mind you, who changed teams for the dollars, went to Benji Marshall and requested not to play with Galvin.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the only thing about this that's interesting is that, I mean, this isn't about money. I mean, he was made a huge money offer and he's knocked it back. So the Galvin situation, obviously, it runs a lot deeper. We're going to talk about his manager later and his whole role in this. But yeah, in terms of this situation, so yeah, this, as you said, Marshall was going to name Galvin in the team to play against Parramatta on Easter Monday, and but the senior players just went to Benji and said, no, we don't want to play with him. You need to drop him, and that's what was done. So he's back to the New South Wales Cup this week. Jerome Luai moves from halfback to 5'8". Adam Dewey comes into the team at halfback. So that's how it's going to sit for this game against Parramatta.
What if they lose?
Yeah, well, this is the issue, isn't it? Coincidentally, and this has been completely overlooked, got lost in the Galvin news. Mitchell Moses actually makes his return in the same game for Parramatta, who happens to be cousins with Galvin's manager. Oh. So there you go. That's something that got in under the radar this week. I don't think anybody even knew about that, given how big this Lachlan Galvin news was.
You look at that, like now they've got to go play the Eels with Mitchell Moses back, with all of their off-field drama. What if they give the Eels their second win of the year?
Yeah, well, they might well do that.
Which will put the Panthers at 17th.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about... And that's why there's two sides to every story, isn't there? There's two sides to this story. I think there's fault on both sides here. Now, I didn't like that club statement that the Tigers put out. I didn't even really like that how Marshall wanted Galvin to explain himself to the team. There's a bit of, it's like a passive-aggressive... You have to explain yourself to the team now. There's a bit of passive-aggressive in that, I think. But then again, I mean, the other side of it is... Who does this 19-year-old think he is, saying that, and we're going to get to it in a little bit, saying that, a 40-year-old who played in a premiership in 2005, won a World Cup with New Zealand in 2008, won a Golden Boot Award in 2010, has played over 300 NRL games and is a Hall of Famer. Who's a 19-year-old to go to the club with a dossier saying, these are the 7 reasons why he can't coach? I mean, come on, give me a break. He's 19 and he's walking into... What other 19-year-old has done that? Who does he think he is? And I know some people have said, look, he's only 19, he's very young. Yeah, all right, he's 19, he's young. There are other 19-year-olds who've been in the game who haven't gone to... the club with a dossier with 7 reasons saying why their coach can't coach.
Another thing about that, right? Who told the media they went to the club with a dossier? The Tigers, man. So that's...
Yeah, well, it would have... Yeah. Probably the CEO, I would say.
Well, he approached Isaac Moses and Lachlan.
Because that's the thing, who else knows about it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it could have been Isaac Moses.
Yeah.
But it also could have been someone else from inside.
Well, it's either Moses... or the CEO.
So he's gone to... Shane Richardson's the CEO, right? Yeah. Shane Richardson. He's brought a list of... Here are the 7 reasons why Benji Marshall can't coach. Now, it's not just the ridiculous of a 19-year-old who's only ever played for one club and has only ever been coached in first grade by one person to do something like that. But he's also in a team with a 4-time premiership winner, State of Origin winner, Ceylon representative as his halves partner, who clearly doesn't agree with him, who's previously for the past 5 years been coached by one of the best coaches of the modern era, Ivan Cleary, and he's not going to the club and going... If Jerome Luai was going to the club and saying, I think we've got a problem with Benji Marshall, I don't think he's good at coaching, you could say, maybe Jerome Luai has a point, because he has a comparative, right? He has a comparison. He can compare it to Ivan Cleary. But for Lachlan Galvin, who's never been coached by anyone else, how does he have the gall to do that?
Yeah, and I actually spoke to Greg Alexander about it yesterday, and he made the interesting point of saying that, well, if people are talking about that he's going to go to Parramatta now, what is Lachlan Galvin going to be happy with Parramatta's coaching staff? Are they good enough coaches for him? Is he happy enough with their coaching staff? What are they going to have to do? Are they going to have to lay out a nice red carpet for him and everything, and hire a limo driver to drive him to training every day and pamper him and look after him? Is he going to be okay with that? Is he going to be happy with that? Is that going to satisfy him nicely?
How does he know somewhere else has a better coach?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. It's a nonsensical thing to do. That's, I don't know, obviously there's suspicion, but to me it's just clearly given. The whole thing is clearly driven by Isaac Moses. Using Lachlan Galvin as a weapon against Benji Marshall, because they very much dislike each other.
And this whole problem with Isaac Moses is, and what players need to understand, and obviously, as we say, Lachlan Galvin is only 19, but people around him, like his parents, should understand, and other people closer to him who are older and wiser than he is should be saying, look, Isaac Moses might get you a couple of $100,000 more per year on your next contract, maybe, but the problem is he's going to destroy your reputation in the process, because you're going to have a reputation of being somebody who has your manager go to the club and say, with a dossier saying, oh, here's 7 reasons why I don't like your coach and why my player is not suited to your coach. So now Lachlan Galvin's going to have that reputation. The next club he goes to, well, they're going to have to think, oh, well, what? Is his manager going to do this to us? Is his manager going to come up to us and say, well, here's 7 reasons why your coach can't coach? Because he's done that at the Tigers. And what I would say is, and I know he's only 19, and I know last year was his first year in first grade, but if Lachlan Galvin's such a great young player, why did the Tigers come last year? They're going better this year, but that's because they got Luai there now. Luai's the point of difference. Last year when they just had Galvin, they came last. This year Luai arrives, and now all of a sudden they've won 3, lost 3, and they're in the top 8. What's the point of difference there? It's Jerome Luai, it's not Lachlan Galvin.
Yeah, well, that's I just think it's, you can't really listen to a 19-year-old that's only been coached by Benji Marshall and won a wooden spoon.
That's the thing.
When you have Jerome Luai there.
That was the other thing that Greg Alexander said, was how many coaches has he had? He's 19. What, he had maybe an SG ball coach? What, a couple of junior coaches? This guy, this 19-year-old's like an expert on coaching, and you know what's he done? Like a master's degree in sports coaching or something.
There are players at the Tigers that have been coached by the best of the best, and they don't have a problem with Benji Marshall. So how do you listen to a 19-year-old kid that's been?
Yeah.
How does he even have that opinion? Yeah. I know we always talk about like kids today, and they think they know everything and all that kind of stuff, but even still, like, what would go through your mind to think that anyone would listen to you as a 19-year-old? I know every 19-year-old thinks they know everything, generationally, every generation, but what could possibly go through your mind to think like, now I've never had another first grade coach, and I know what a good coach is, so I'm going to go tell the club. What?
Yeah.
Even if your manager suggested you do that, surely you would go, I don't want to do that. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm going to look foolish. I would just look stupid.
Yeah, how does a 19-year-old, through his manager obviously, how does a 19-year-old go into a club and say, oh, that 40-year-old who you've got coaching you, who's won a premiership, won a World Cup, won a Golden Boot, is an NRL Hall of Famer and has played over 300 games, he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's talking about. We have a list of 7 reasons why he shouldn't be your coach.
And what did they expect the outcome to be there? Did they expect Shane Richardson to go, all right, Lockie, Benji's out the door, and you'll be staying? What was the desired outcome they were looking for? It's so nonsensical.
Yeah, it's obviously, for one reason or another, it could be, I mean, it may be money, but it probably is more likely, as we talked about before we started today when you came in, it's probably more likely that Benji Marshall and Isaac Moses just don't get on at all, and it's a personal thing, and that's what's sort of behind it here.
Apparently it goes back to John Bateman and David Clemmer, who's managed by Isaac Moses. And
and he's got form, Isaac Moses. He's torn the Tigers apart before. James Tedesco left, Mitchell Moses, his cousin, left, and Aaron Woods left as well. They were all players he looked after who left the Tigers. So, and now he's done the same with Galvin. I'll tell you what, if I was a Tigers supporter, I wouldn't be liking Isaac Moses right now.
The Tigers are probably going to stop signing any of his players, but in the end, does anybody care? Because he wants to go to the Tigers. Sorry, Adam. But yeah, it's the most bizarre thing I have actually ever heard, and in a history of bizarre things in rugby league, for Lachlan Galvin to take a list of this is the reasons why I think this coach can't coach. What are you trying to achieve?
Well, it's clearly it's an agitation to get out for one reason or another. But
Well, he's not nothing now. He's all right to drop a 250 grand player to New South Wales Cup for the next 2 years.
But this is the problem, though. The people who engage in players, managers, whoever, or players mainly, the manager doesn't care. The manager's just trying to make money out of the commission. But what the players have to be careful of here is, yes, there may be some tactic to agitate like this to get out of your contract for whatever reason. Again, could be personal differences with the coach, it could be money, whatever the reason is. And he may well achieve his desired outcome. He probably will. He's probably not going to stay there till the end of next year. It's highly unlikely. It's going to be too destabilising. The Tigers will probably release him at some stage between now and then. You'd have to think that that's the likely scenario.
That's what they always do. But honestly, if I was them, I would keep him.
There's part of you that just wants him to keep him in reserve grade for 2 years just to get back in him.
Do they have to play him in reserve grade?
Or just not play him at all. Yeah. And they probably don't. Because that's the thing. At the moment, he wouldn't be on much money because he only debuted last year. So, yeah, you're right. He wouldn't be on much money. There's part of you that goes, just leave him on your books and just say, look, you don't have to come in to work,
apparently,
but you can't work anywhere else.
$350K a year. What does that do? Like, just... Yeah, down you go. Not even the New South Wales Cup. A New South Wales Cup reserve.
Yeah. I mean, there is part of you that would like to see that. But the downside of that is the West Tigers have to be wary of the flip side there, which is, well, if they're going to treat him like that, then players will look at that and go, well, if you're treating him like that, you might treat me like that in a similar scenario. Yeah. And they'll probably, even though they have a really poor history with this sort of thing, even the Tigers will probably realise that and go, well, we may as well just cut him loose now. But yeah, getting back to what I was saying before, this is the thing that players have to worry about. They may achieve their short-term goal of getting out of their contract, but they don't. But they lose sight of the long-term damage to their reputation as a result of it, and the new club will then go, well, all right, if he's knocked back over $1 million... Again, it was a $6 million over 5 years, I believe. So he's knocked back over $1 million a year to stay there. So that means that whoever gets him is going to have to pay over $1 million a year to get him. So that's going to destroy your salary cap if you sign him. It'll destroy your salary cap. And you'll also have to be mindful of, well, if he's done this to the Tigers, what's he going to do to us? If he's had personal differences with the coach of the Tigers, I mean, this is Lachlan, Galvin and Isaac Moses, who are the experts on great coaching. And they know everything about coaching, even though one of them's a player manager and the other one's only 19 years old. They're the world's greatest experts on what makes a great coach. So maybe they won't be too satisfied with if he goes to Parramatta with Parramatta's coaching either. And then Parramatta are going to have to think about that. Are we really going to sign someone on over $1 million a year who might come in with a dossier about how much our coach can't coach? And I'll tell you what, if there's a club who's going to dig themselves into that hole, it's Parramatta, because they haven't won a premiership in nearly 40 years. I'll tell you what, I hope he goes to Parramatta. It'd be a perfect fit. Lachlan, Galvin and Parramatta are made for each other. It's a match made in heaven.
He's not worth $1 million either. That's just overinflated halves market right now. I mean, Mitchell Pearce.
No, he's not worth
always says you're worth what people will pay for you. But if he's worth $1 million and Dylan Brown is worth 1.3, I think Todd Carney's wrong. Nathan Cleary isn't worth 2.8. Nathan Cleary's worth 8.
That's right.
Worth $1 million.
That's right. Why?
Like, he's 1 year into his career.
And again, I know he's only one player, but if he was so great, why did and again, the Tigers came last year. It's not like they came 10th or 11th where you go, if he had a couple of players around him, they could have made the 8 last year. No. They came last. And now that Luai's gone there, all of a sudden, they're in the top 8. I wonder why they're in the top 8 this year. They've just signed a half who's won the last 4 straight premierships, and they're in the top 8. I wonder why that is. I don't think it's because of Lachlan Galvin.
I can't believe they were offering him more than $1 million. Like, Dylan Brown's really broke that. And even then, to turn it, not even turn it down, apparently they wouldn't even entertain the offer. They said they don't care, they don't want it. They just don't even bother making the offer because we don't want to turn you down, right? And so is the expectation he's going to go to another club and get $1 million? Because any club would be mad to pay $1 million for Lachlan Galvin. Maybe in 3 or 4 years.
I'll tell you what, this Parramatta, you can see it. You can see it. You can just see it. Parramatta will pay what he wants, and they'll destroy their salary cap, and they'll continue to not win a premiership for 4 decades.
Can I buy a 19-year-old half who won a wooden spoon for $1 million? Like, think about that. Like, okay, who we got on the market? Well, we got a 19-year-old who's only played 20 games and also won a wooden spoon last year. What's his asking price? $1 million? Sold. Are you mad?
Yeah, and look again. Yeah, he's a talented 19-year-old player. He is, but what, over $1 million a year already? Again, they won the spoon last year. They're only going well this year because they got Luai now.
It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
But
go figure.
Now, there's also a big thing now about how it's flipped the other way as well. Everyone feels really sorry for him because he's being bullied on social media by Jerome Luai and Luai Turuva and some other people.
Yes. So I can...
These guys, man.
Yeah, I can run you through what's happened here. So there's been a bit of a social media pile-on from his Tigers teammates and this whole circus that's going on. So Jerome Luai took to Instagram sharing an image that read, "Team First," while Luai Turuva posted a story for his close friends, which went even further than Luai. The post featured a shot of Galvin's locker, with the music underneath being former WWE wrestler Shane McMahon's theme song, which is called "Here Comes the Money." Turuva's account has since gone private. And just one more thing, Tigers prop for Minaur Bolle, meanwhile, liked a post which said about Galvin, "Un-effing believable. We give you a shot at first grade and hand you the keys to the franchise with every tool possible around you to succeed. See you, mate."
The Turuva one I want to highlight because Jerome Luai's was public. The other guy was on a public post, so he liked a fan post on a West Tigers fan page, so everyone's going to see that. But the Turuva one, he shared to his close friends. You know, on Instagram you can set a list of close friends. So then when you share a story, you can say, "I'm only going to share it to my close friends," and then only your close friends will see it. So one of his close friends has then screen recorded and shared that, because it's not like his close friend could share that to me and I'll be able to see it. It would say this story is unavailable to you. So they've screen recorded that and shared it. Bro needs to look at his close friends.
I'll tell you what, that wouldn't be like a rugby league player to accidentally share something on social media, would it, that they shouldn't have shared?
Yeah. But to close friends. Yeah. He needs to take a quick look at his close friends list and go, which ones aren't actually my close friends? Because the fact he was sharing it to close friends shows he knew that he shouldn't be sharing it. He's trying to hide it from the public, too afraid to share it to Galvin or whatever, so Galvin could see it. And then one of his friends screen recorded their screen and then shared it. Close friends, bro. Close friends. And that's how they're now.
I think people just, when there's a big story like this, people just can't help themselves, can they? They want to feel like they're important, don't they? Oh, look, I've got this. This will be huge, and they just can't help but leak it out.
If you're if you're a rugby league player, you don't have close friends.
That's the thing. But you'd probably think that everybody uses you, and then a lot of players have talked about that once they retire, nobody cares anymore, and they forget about you, forget that you're ever a first grade footballer. But look, sorry. Oh yeah, I was just going to say, my sort of thoughts are on it, and I know it was mentioned that this might have been borderline bullying from these Tigers players. But my thoughts are that if you're 19 and you haven't achieved anything in the game, and your manager, or you via your manager, go to the club and with 7 reasons why the coach can't coach, a big dossier, then there's going to be some reaction to that from the players. I'm sorry, the players, what are they going to do? What are they expected to do? Just sit there and go, oh yeah, that's fine, no worries. And this is the other thing, I know what you said about how the Tigers have been badly run for years and all that stuff. But
too much leagues.
But at least this time, I think the Tigers in the past what they would have done in this scenario is they would have let somebody like Isaac Moses just run roughshod over them, and they would have just caved in and gone, oh yeah, if Lockie wants $1.5 million a year, we'll give it to him. That's fine. That's fine, Isaac. The Tigers would have just rolled over in the past. But now under Jerome Luai, they're not doing that now, and they're making a stand. They're saying, no, you can't come in and with some stupid dossier saying why our coach can't coach. If you're going to carry on like this, we are going to pay out on you on social media, and we're dropping you to New South Wales Cup.
Well, that's the thing, right? You make a good point. Even though there's the mockery, and Andrew Johnson's had a big blast at Luai Turuva over them doing this kind of stuff, because both of you came from the Panthers, both of you went money first, both of you left your club. Yeah, it's very different though, because of the way in which they did it. Jerome Luai fronted his team and said, I'm leaving, and I'm not going to be a dick about it.
Yeah.
But...
and he never went to the Panthers saying that the coach couldn't coach either.
And but the thing is, it's good. Tigers fans should really take something from it about the culture that is changing amongst the players.
Yes.
Because last year, the whole thing with John Bateman was last year, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
The whole thing with Bateman... and even Clemmer, Bateman was apparently not liked within the group, not liked by Benji Marshall, basically kicked out, right? By the way, I've seen all over the internet, most of the North Queensland fans hate having him there as well. But last year when there was a poison plum in their midst, you saw not a peep from the players. This year, you have something like this, and the players are all actually uniting around the Tigers. So fans should take that away from it, yes, our players are uniting. Can the culture be shifted enough that they can actually ignore the off-field drama? Because, we've discussed it at length over the past 2 years. Tigers have changed all their players, all their coaching staff, all their CEOs, board, everything. Everything has changed. The only thing they haven't changed is the fans. They can't change the fans. Fans are not the thing that makes you lose games.
No.
But the thing that continues...
And they're not what make you win games either. They're just fans.
The only thing that happens that has been consistent for the Tigers for even the past 8 years is constant media leaks from an unnamed source. Derailing Tigers on field. Doesn't, like we've said before, they always say, no, we don't let the off-field stuff affect us. Why is your team going so badly?
but this is the other thing. I had the West Tigers out of my top 8 this year. I'm not sure if you did or not. I can't remember. But I had them out of my top 8. I think I don't have it right in front of me, but I think I had them, 10th, 11th, 12th, something like that.
Yeah.
They're performing above expectations now. So now that Benji Marshall actually has some players to work with, his team's in the top 8 this year. They've won 3 and lost 3. So this is the other bizarre thing. It's not like they've lost every game and they're planted at the bottom of the ladder and Lachlan Galvin's gone, Jesus, I'm really not going to get anywhere if I stay at this club. I need to leave. No, that's the problem. They've built a team around him now. There is light at the end of the tunnel now. And yes, the indications are that, yes, Benji Marshall can coach. Yeah. Because they're in the top 8 now. That's what is so strange about the timing of all of this. This is a team on the rise. Again, I didn't have them in my 8 this year. So as far as I'm concerned, they're performing above expectations by being in 7th spot at the moment.
I agree with that. I think a lot of people will agree with that. It's just, I'm really curious to see how they perform this week, because this off-field thing it's taken all the news. There's nothing else in the news.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And you might have looked at the rundown and gone, geez, we've got 7 or 8 items on the same subject, but hey, that's all that's around this week, pretty much. Well, actually, apart from the Lenu Thurston thing, which we'll get to later. But that's funny, earlier in the week coming here, I thought, that'll be our lead item, the Lenu Thurston, but that's been bumped down to about 8 or 9 with this Lachlan Galvin news. So it's just dominated the news cycle.
Yeah, and that's the Tigers in the news for all the wrong reasons again. So I'd be curious to see if, the culture has shifted enough that they can ignore it and actually perform well. They're going against the 17th place team that's only won 1 game so far this year.
And this is the other thing about it is, while he's still at the club, the story doesn't go away. Yeah. It's the same as, in that regard, it's similar to the Cherry Evans story. because it's the same deal. While Cherry Evans is still at Manly and his future's unresolved, the story doesn't go away. Exactly. And that's the problem. The Galvin, at least with the Dylan Brown story, at least that's settled. At least we know what's happening there. We know that he's going to Newcastle next year. Yeah, it's a ridiculous deal. They've paid way too much for him. But at least Parramatta know where they stand and Newcastle know where they stand, even though Newcastle are crazy for having given him that deal. Problem for the West Tigers and Manly is these Cherry Evans and Galvin stories, they're moving beasts. They're very fluid. And as we say, Manly and Cherry Evans would be very happy about this Galvin news. It's just completely removed Cherry Evans from the news cycle. But that will come back. While the story's unresolved, it will come back to the surface. And with Galvin and Cherry Evans, until these stories are resolved, there's going to continue to be little spot fires all year.
Well, until Cherry Evans signs a deal with someone.
Yeah.
To the Dragons, bro.
That's the thing. While you don't know where they're going, the spot fires will continue.
But Galvin can't go anywhere. That's the other thing about Galvin. He can't go anywhere
unless they release him. Yeah.
Until November.
Yeah.
It's a bit sus.
But that's another reason why they're going to have to release him, because they're not going to be. If they don't release him, they're going to have to put up with this until November 1. That's going to completely destabilise their season. They can't afford their season to be destabilised. They've won 3 wooden spoons in a row. They're finally having a better year where they're in 7th spot after 6 games.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't afford for their season to be destabilised.
But meanwhile, Phil Gould, who has been courting Lachlan Galvin in the media since he debuted last year.
Yes. It's weird, isn't it?
It is. Seriously. It's very, very weird, like funny, because in hindsight, right, my son, my 11-year-old's just learnt the word foreshadowing, right? So when we're watching movies, he'll keep like asking, I think that's some foreshadowing for something, right?
Yeah. That word doesn't get used enough, does it?
But I've explained to him that foreshadowing you don't ever realise till after the event. And the one that we like I showed him was in Jurassic Park #1, when they're arriving to the island, they need to put their seatbelt on, and Dr. Alan Grant, he gets 2 females plugs for his seatbelt, and it won't go in, so he ties it. And then later, you find out they're all females, but nature finds a way and they start having eggs, and that's the whole foreshadowing. Nature found a way. He found a way for 2 females to turn into a thing. So when this Phil Gould story came out, actually, 1 year ago, nobody really realised. You know? Like, Phil Gould's in the media talking about how Lachlan Galvin's a future superstar in the game. Whatever club gets him is going to be, like, in the best possible position. He's the best young half, blah, 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 blah. A year later, you realise, wait a second, foreshadowing.
Yeah. And I noticed he made some comment the other day, Phil Gould, where he said something like, I think he was saying, like, if you're a 19-year-old footballer or a 22-year-old footballer or something like that, he said, you should just focus on being the best 19-year-old player you can be, or you should just focus on being the best 22-year-old player you can be. Don't worry about the money. That'll come later. It's like, clearly he's just trying to get in Galvin's head and convince him that he's not worth this huge money because he wants him at the Bulldogs on the proviso that he doesn't want to have to pay huge money to get him. That's what it's all about.
That behaviour...
I can't stand it, and I support the team that he's general manager of. But even I'll say it's a conflict of interest. He's a media personality, and he's on all these TV shows. People watching those TV shows, I don't watch the shows that he's on, but people watching his TV shows, they're entitled to watch thinking that the people on the show are giving a 100% unbiased opinion and they're not letting, conflicts of interest get in the way. Problem with him is he's the general manager of a club and he's making comments like this about players with hidden agendas. This thing about, don't worry about the money, be the best 19-year-old or be the best 22-year-old. He's just trying to convince him that he's not worth huge money because he wants to sign him at his club on low money. That's why he's doing it.
He wields a lot of power in the game. Like a lot, obviously. And it really needs to be looked at. Because, he's also got his own podcast now. He's on 14 shows. Does he still write for newspapers? He's interviewed by the media. as the Bulldogs general manager of football or whatever the hell he is.
That's the thing. You've hit the nail on the head. That's the thing. So when he's talking on those TV shows, what's he talking as? Is he talking as a high-profile media personality, an impartial media personality, or is he talking as the general manager of a club?
Yeah, so if the Bulldogs, if he was at a media day at the Bulldogs and a reporter said to him, "Oh, would you be interested in signing Lachlan Galvin?" and he's talking as a general, because he's being interviewed as a general manager of the football or whatever it is, and he said yes or no, then he's talking as a general manager of football. If he's on whatever TV show he's on, and one of the other panel members says, "Do you think the Bulldogs would sign Lachlan Galvin?" And he goes, "You got to be the best you can be when you're 20, blah." Is he talking as a media personality or the Bulldogs?
Yeah. But with Gould, he's too... The Bulldogs won't sign Galvin because Gould's smart enough to know that he's not worth the money. Gould knows that if you were to sign him now, it'd be on some ridiculous amount of money and he's just not worth it. Gould's smart enough to know that. But he tries all these other tactics like don't worry about the money when you're only 19, because I think he does want Galvin, but just not at the price he'd be asking. That's
every club would be mad to take it as the price that you're asking. Phil Gould will never pay over his...
Yeah. So that's the thing. We got to give him credit. He's smart enough not to pay someone like Lachlan Galvin $1.5 million a year. I mean, he's smart enough to know that that'd just be ridiculous. Yeah. But then he does these other things like, when there was this pile-on that we talked about from Luai and Turuva and Bole on social media, then all of a sudden Gould raises concerns for the welfare of Lachlan Galvin. So now Phil Gould's this nice, understanding counsellor all of a sudden.
If you come to the Bulldogs will take care of him.
Yeah, we'll take care of him. We'll look after his welfare here.
It's such a load of...
But isn't that nice of Phil Gould to be so concerned about Lachlan Galvin's welfare? What a nice guy.
They need to resolve it. There was a whole stink kicked up last week about Braith and Asta having a conflict of interest, which was apparently initiated by some other media personalities like Phil Gould, because Braith and Asta manages 5 players. He's a player agent or something for 5 players.
And so was it Phil Gould who...
Well, I don't know who it was, but it was like the stuff I read was like people like Phil Gould and some others' names were mentioned, was saying Braith and Asta had a conflict of interest in his media role. And you can watch he addresses it on one of his many shows he's on, where he's like, dude, you got the general manager of football for the Bulldogs on 15 shows. You've got Andrew Johns running around who coaches about 12 clubs on 15 different shows. You've got just going through all of these people, and he's like, and I manage 5 players. How is it a conflict for me when compared to those other guys? So I would say Braith and Asta is in the lowest level of conflict right now. Yeah, he might talk up his players in his media role, but it's only 5 players, and what effect can he have?
To be fair to him though as well, is that he manages Lachlan Ilias, and he did say, I've heard him be critical of Ilias, even though he's his manager. So to be fair to him, there'd be no other manager who would do that, who would be critical of that. Like he said, because Ilias has made those mistakes where he kicked that ball out on the full and then Lomax kicked that field goal, and there might have been a couple of other mistakes in the weeks prior as well. But he's actually come out and said, look, Lockie was off his game that day. He said stuff like that as well.
Out of anything, he's in the lowest level of conflict, and you'd have to say Phil Gould is the highest level of conflict.
That's the thing. With everything Gould says, it's like there's some hidden agenda with everything. That comment about, he should just be the best 19-year-old he can be. That's like, hello, this guy doesn't want to pay over $1 million for a 19-year-old. That's why he's saying he shouldn't be worried about money at this stage in his career. Hello, ding-dong, red flag. I mean,
Yeah. But just this morning or yesterday, Paul Kent's released his latest episode of his podcast.
Yes.
Detailing that, he's suggesting allegedly that a deal is all but done between Galvin and Parramatta, which would be a massive breach of everything in the entire universe. Surely Parramatta, who have been fined for salary cap breaches and things like that, would know not to do something so stupid. Surely. They wouldn't.
That's a good fit, Galvin to Parramatta on $1.5 million a year.
Combining with Mitchell Moses.
Yeah, well, I mean, it does fit in the... And yeah, Paul Kent did say, you're right, he said on his podcast, quote, a deal is all but done between Parramatta and Lachlan Galvin.
How?
Well, I mean, it sort of makes sense in that Galvin's manager is cousins with Mitchell Moses. So that sort of makes sense in that regard. It'd just be... They would, if Paul Kent is right, and look, he probably is. I mean, he'd have good sources by now. It'd just be, it'd just be on the quiet. They would have done the deal because they know that under the rules they can't negotiate until November 1. But they would have just had a quiet word saying, "Look, this is done. We'll just formalise it November 1, right?"
That's not allowed.
No, it's not
cheating.
Yeah, it is. But I think that's what would have happened here.
But no one would ever suggest that any club would ever do a quick deal, Fisher Harris to the Warriors. But apparently the whole Fisher Harris one was the only one in the world that was actually definitely above board. By the way, I've heard from many people now it really sounded sus, but actually legitimately it was fully above board. He was over in New Zealand, and he realised he missed being in New Zealand, so he called for a game. So he called the Panthers and spoke to Ivan Cleary. And whoever the CEO there and said, I want to go back to New Zealand as soon as possible. I miss my family. And they said, do you want us to reach out to the Warriors for you and see if they can take you next year? And he said, do you think they will? And so then the Panthers reached out to the Warriors and it was all done really quickly.
Yeah, right.
So it was that was fully legitimate. Yeah. But this is not in any way. This is again, he's not allowed to negotiate till the 1st of November this year, which is 7 months away. For the following year. So he's not allowed to go to another club, in theory, until 2027. How is the deal all but done between Galvin and Parramatta? By cheating. Parramatta, if it happens, the NRL should thoroughly... There's got to be an investigation. And not register the contract.
Yeah,
Parramatta heaps.
I just don't get this, with Isaac Moses, these players need to be careful here, because again they got to be thinking, well, he only cares about the commission he's going to get on your next contract. So yeah, he's trying to make as much money as he can for you, but only so that he can make as much money as he can out of the commission. And he doesn't care about the reputation of his players in and of itself. He cares about his players getting paid a lot of money because he wants higher commission.
Yeah. And if he does get his players higher money, then more players will want to work for him because he'll get them higher money.
Yeah, but this is the thing players have got to be mindful of. That's all he cares about. That's his only motivation. He doesn't care about destroying your reputation, because if he did, he wouldn't have put Lachlan Galvin through all this mess.
It's crazy though. Parramatta breached the salary cap for over the course of 3 years, the second largest salary cap breach in history, after Melbourne or whatever, and won a couple of wooden spoons in a row. Were featured on some American ESPN as the worst cheaters in the world in sport, and got massive fines and docked points and stuff like that. This is basically a same thing, salary cap breach. They're not allowed to, as part of the whole Players Association and everything, they're not allowed to negotiate with him in any way, shape or form. And so if Parramatta sign him at all, everyone has to investigate. And apparently the RLPA and Clint Newton are going to meet with the Tigers and stuff about handling Lachlan Galvin and stuff like that. I'm all for unions, even though everybody in my life thinks I'm some kind of Trump supporter. I'm all for unions and stuff like that, but I just think the Rugby League Players Association is everything that's wrong with unions, actually. Why are they going to the Tigers to talk about Lachlan Galvin's situation? The situation is he wants to leave. He has said publicly that he wants to leave at the end of 2026. He wants to see out his contract. That's what he said publicly. Wants to see out his contract and give the Tigers plenty of time to, find a replacement for him and stuff like that. So why does the RLPA need to go to the Tigers and go, let's work out this issue with Lachlan Galvin? What's the issue? He's staying here for a year. He's staying here to the end of his contract.
Yeah.
But if the RLPA is going there to go, we've got to sort it out, he kind of wants to go to Parramatta, and Parramatta's willing to take him, how do you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And this is the problem with the problem with player managers is that players need to be mindful of is that all they care about is making as much money as possible. And so all they care about with regard to their player is getting their player on as high a contract amount as possible so that they get a bigger commission of it. That's it. But it's not always, while money is a big part of, the motivation for a player, which is fair enough, they're professional footballers and, money is a consideration for them. But it's not always about the money, in terms of a player, because, you could have a scenario where, if you're in a winning team like, Penrith were up until this year, for example, you might have a scenario where Penrith are offering you $100,000 less than a club like Parramatta, and because you want to be part of a winning team and everything, you might be willing to take a bit less to go to a successful club like Penrith as opposed to a club that have had no success for a long time like Parramatta. So that's the issue. Whereas the manager doesn't care about anything like that. The manager doesn't care if all his players are playing for the worst 4 teams in the comp, as long as they're making as much money as they can so that they get as high a commission as they can. The manager doesn't care about stuff like, is my player going to be happy at this club? Is my player going to win premierships at this club? The manager only cares about, I need my player on as high an amount of money as possible so I get as much money as possible.
Yeah, the only player manager I trust is Braithen Astor.
But you know what? The good thing about Braithen Astor as a manager is that he's wealthy, so he's not in it for the money. He's probably the most honest player manager out there because he's the only player manager who wouldn't just be about the money. If his player came to him and said, let's say he has a player who says, I've got this offer from Penrith, which is $100,000 less than an offer from Parramatta. He's the only player manager who would say to his player, look, I think you should go to Penrith because they're a successful club. It'll be better for you. You'll be happier. It'll be better for your football. You're better off going to Penrith. Don't go to Parramatta for a little bit more money because you'll be miserable. You'll be losing games every week. He's the only manager who would say that to his players. So he's the only really honest player manager.
Yeah, that's what I reckon.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he only manages 5 players. Or 6, something like that.
Yeah, he's too busy with other things like his media career.
But yeah, let's look at some other clubs that could possibly sign Lachlan Galvin. Bulldogs can take him. I don't think any Bulldogs fan even wants him now.
No, well, this is the issue. Now, I know Toby Sexton is off contract at the end of this year. I'm aware of that, and I don't know whether he's going to stay or not. It'd just, obviously, it's going to depend on money. And Phil Gould will have an idea in his head of, well, this is the maximum amount that we would pay for Sexton. And if he decides to leave, well, okay, so be it. We're not going to pay more than whatever that amount is. So this is the issue. I think that at the moment, Toby Sexton is your perfect NRL halfback in that he wouldn't be on much money. And look how well he's going. He's in the team that's on the top of the ladder. All right, I'm not saying he's the best halfback in the comp, but his team haven't lost a game this year. They're on top of the ladder, and they're not paying him much money. So from an NRL salary cap point of view, there's no better halfback than Toby Sexton at the moment in terms of getting value for money.
Well, he's also covered and won while missing the senior half. With Matt Burton.
Yeah, Matt Burton hasn't been there for the last 3 games, and they've won all the games.
Yeah. So he's on a perfect amount of money, and he's doing perfectly.
Yeah, this is the thing. So you got Toby Sexton there, and as was pointed out earlier in the week, if they were to sign, like Galvin's a 5'8", Matt Burton's a 5'8", that's 2 5'8". Neither of them are halfbacks, so there'd be 2 5'8". So that wouldn't work. You sign Galvin, you've already got Burton there. That doesn't work. Not only that, if you sign Galvin, he'd be asking for too much money, as we've talked about at the moment. You'd have to pay over $1 million a year for him. He'd destroy your salary cap. So if you got Matt Burton and Toby Sexton in your halves right now, why would you chase Lachlan Galvin for over $1 million a year? It's nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
Clubs looking for a desperate quick fix would be willing to pay Lachlan Galvin over $1 million, like the Knights were with Dylan Brown. So which clubs are looking for a desperate quick fix that will make that, many people would think is a mistake to pay $1 million for him. Parramatta.
Yeah, it just fits. It really, it's a match made in heaven, as I said before, Galvin and Parramatta.
The Broncos, if Adam Reynolds retires.
Look, there's some other clubs. I've just done a bit of a list here, so I guess there's this thing about, Manly. I mean, Cherry Evans is going. Yeah, true. Yeah, so it looks like Fogerty's their priority, and they got Luke Brooks there. But Luke Brooks needs help. He's not a dominant half, as we talked about. So, yeah, their sights are set on Fogerty, not Galvin. Yep. And look, you know what? They're probably better off with Fogerty than Galvin. Because, as we say, Galvin, at least with Fogerty, you're not going to have to... Fogerty, he's doing pretty well at Canberra, and you're not going to have to pay... Compared to some other... Like, let's remember Dylan Brown's getting $1.3 million a year next year with Newcastle and for the next 10 years. So, all things considered... Players like Fogerty, Sexton, they're where the value is at the moment. They're getting good results, and you're not paying huge money for them compared to others.
A good partner for Brooks because Fogerty can be a 7 and be the dominant half, whereas Galvin isn't a good partner for Brooks because it would rely on Brooks becoming the 7 and being the dominant half.
And we know that doesn't work because he never made the top 8 in his whole time at the Tigers.
Wouldn't it just be like irony? Is that irony? If he went there, partnered with Brooks, and they just started missing the 8.
So all right, so we're ruling Manly out because they're going for Fogerty.
Yeah.
But we got the Roosters here. They're going after DCE.
I expect they're getting DCE. Inside goss is that's being done now, and it will be
the Roosters. Yeah,
it's a big money deal that he's happy with.
Is it gonna work though?
Him and Sam Walker at 6. Yeah,
but is it? They did that. They put Cooper Cronk in there for 2 years and they won 2 straight premierships. Is it going to be the same with DCE?
I think it's more the James Maloney, Sonny Bill period than the Cooper Cronk period over there. I think it's like they'll get DCE and a couple of other big names, as opposed to Cooper Cronk was the final piece of the puzzle to get those 2 premierships. I think they're going to go 2013 and everyone's ass.
Sonny Bill, Maloney, Jennings type thing.
Big guys. Apparently, like Joey Manu might be coming back, Suali'i might be coming back. Like, this is the thing. I think that's going to be next year. Roosters look like they've written the year off.
But that's what they... And I saw the commentary on this during the week as well. That's what they do, the Roosters, and a lot of people are going, look at all these players they've lost. They're loading the gun. They're loading the salary cap gun. And they know that this is the way that you rebound quickly is by letting a whole bunch of players go at once, so then you can go on that big recruiting spree to correct it soon afterwards.
Yeah, so I expect that's what's going to happen next year with the Roosters. It's going to be DCE, some other big names, like probably a back, a forward, a half, all big names. They're going to let go of Brandon Smith. They're losing another couple of players, and so then they'll get a back, a forward, and a half, and they'll build that way. So Galvin is not the guy there either. I wouldn't say they even have interest.
Okay, so let's say DCE goes to the Roosters for 2 years. It wouldn't be. Well, it won't be more. It won't be more than 2 years.
I think it'll be 2 years. 900,000.
So if he goes there for 2 years, and they don't win a comp while he's there, well, is that a failed signing then? Do they have to win a comp with DCE there for it to be a pass mark?
I think they have to perform well in the finals.
Like prelim or grand final for it to be worth it. Because it is hard. It is hard to judge on, he's there 2 years and he's got to win a premiership. I mean, that's very difficult. But they have to do really well 1 year. You got to look at both years
for the past few years where they haven't performed that well in the finals. Even if they've made it through some of the rounds of the finals, they haven't performed very well. So I think like some dominant victories in the finals and top 4 finishes and stuff would be more of a success with Daly Cherry Evans, and a premiership would just be icing on the cake.
Okay, what about in terms of back to Galvin? What about the Rabbitohs? Cody Walker's 35. He's not going to be playing much longer. You got
to ask yourself, would Wayne Bennett take him? Wayne Bennett's not been known for taking.
he likes signing the older, more experienced players, doesn't he?
Young guys who are... I said to someone, this is reminding me of Richie Williams. You remember Richie Williams?
Yeah.
Like, he come onto the scene, he was like the young gun, 5'8", that outran Preston Campbell and gave him the finger, then went in the media and said Braithen Astor's not that good, and then Braithen Astor carved him up.
Yeah.
And Wayne Bennett doesn't like those guys.
Okay, so we're ruling the Rabbitohs out. What about your Dragons? What do you think?
So, from what I heard...
Because Scuttlebutt
is they are actually interested in him.
See, the thing is, he's better than Flanagan and Ilias, right? But again, what are you going to have to pay for him? This is the issue. He might be another Ben Hunt for the Dragons, where you pay he takes a huge chunk out of your salary cap, and then doesn't improve your ladder position very much.
Shane Flanagan came out and defended him as well this morning.
Galvin,
yeah.
So they're interested.
Yeah,
but this is the thing.
Yesterday that they're interested. But the Dragons are really strict about they won't, according to them, they won't start a negotiation. But Flanagan's using the media to, let Galvin know that we're on your side, brother. Do you want Galvin and you're going to be Kyle Flanagan will move to 7, obviously, because Shane Flanagan's not going to drop half.
No. That's not a conflict. We talked about conflicts of interest before. That's not a conflict of interest at all, is it? A player in the halves whose dad's the coach, he wouldn't be, that wouldn't cloud his judgment at all, would it?
Dragons fans don't really want him, but, there is apparently some interest there. And I don't know, it's not a bad signing as long as it's for the right money.
That's the thing.
$1 million for him.
It's not just about signing Galvin. It's about, how much do you have to pay? And if you have to pay a ridiculous, $1 million plus amount of money per season for him, well, then that's going to hinder your recruitment in other areas. This is the issue. So this is where the Dragons have got to be really careful. Yes, he is better than Ilias and Flanagan. We would agree with that. But Ilias and Flanagan are not going to be on much money. Ilias and Flanagan are not destroying their salary cap. Yeah, exactly. If Galvin goes there and he's on over $1 million a year, he's going to destroy your salary cap. Yeah, exactly. For a long time if it's on a long-term deal.
So, for the right money, possibly, but I hope the Dragons don't make a mistake and pay overs. Shane Flanagan doesn't really have a history of paying overs for players, does he?
No, well, he's a premiership-winning coach, and he would be aware that you don't win premierships by paying overs for players. Exactly. You just don't. You win premierships by paying amounts for players and then the players playing over their value. That's how you win premierships. You win premierships with $300,000 a year players playing at a level of a $500,000 or $600,000 value. That's how you win premierships. You don't win. You don't win premierships by paying someone worth $750,000. $1.2 million a year.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Who else you got?
What about the Dolphins?
Who's their halves now?
Isaiah Katoa. I guess, there was talk of, DCE linking up with the Dolphins, but as you said before, it seems like it's pretty much a done deal with him at the Roosters.
They're in a really dangerous situation right now. Because they could see their current failure with their downward slide from last year as requiring paying overs for a quick fix.
Yeah, this is where clubs
really
have to beware of the quick fix, beware of the look, we got Lachlan Galvin, look at us. You got to beware of the show pony element here. Don't just
do with a young gun half, but
don't fall in the trap of going, we need a saviour, let's just pay whatever he wants. And then him destroy your salary cap for years to come.
That's it. They are in danger of becoming oh crap, we need a really expensive quick fix.
Yeah. Because
Wayne Bennett ruined them last year.
Yeah, well, this is the one thing about the Dolphins is, Wayne Bennett was their coach and then he left, of course, but they just haven't really landed that one big marquee signing, have they? There's that issue. And then, as you say, there's the danger that to compensate for that, they're going to try and pay overs for somebody like Galvin to fill that void, to go, look at this, we signed Lachlan Galvin, But yeah, this is the thing. Clubs need to be careful of just panic buying, and there is the danger here that Galvin will be a panic buy for somebody. Well, I think he will be. I mean, let's face it. Most likely scenario, Galvin goes to Parramatta and DCE goes to the Roosters, right? Those are the most likely scenarios. So you go, well, Galvin, he's a panic buy for a club like Parramatta, who they're last on the ladder again. And I know they haven't had. We should point out they haven't had Mitchell Moses all season, and he comes back this week. So we're still to see, what impact that has. Does Mitchell Moses solve all their problems? Some halves do. Andrew Johns did.
Yeah.
Does Mitchell Moses just come back and solve all their problems? It's possible. We're going to find out very soon. Yeah, well, because he comes back this weekend.
If they play well this week but still lose, you'll be able to see that Mitchell Moses is about to make him click, like Andrew Johns did when he comes back.
That's the thing. It might take him a bit, let's be fair about it. He's come off a long injury layoff. It may take him a bit of time to get back to his best. Here, Moses, we're not going to know what impact he's had until he's had, 4, 5, 6 games under his belt. And then we're going to know if there's been, a noticeable improvement or not. We're not going to know that this week. Even if they lose this week, he needs more time to find his feet again. But yeah, there's the real danger for these clubs that Galvin is, he's a panic buy.
Yeah.
And they've got to be really careful of that here.
Yep. Who else would? Titans.
Yeah, those were the main contenders that I had.
Titans need something.
But yeah, they do. But I mean, all in all, and I know, Kieran Foran. Well, that's the other thing. They got Kieran Foran, but he's not going to have much longer to go in his career.
Raiders could take him over to replace Jamal Fogerty. But really, I think it's Parramatta is obviously, it's super obvious. Actually, they're going to be the ones that get him.
Yeah, it just fits into place, doesn't it? You think about it. Salary cap space freed up because Dylan Brown's gone, so they've got the salary cap space now. His cousin plays for. His manager is the cousin of the Parramatta halfback.
They know each other really well as well. They've known each other for years. Galvin and Moses.
Yeah, well. So it just fits, and Parramatta are the sort of club who would buy a player like Galvin on overs. It just the pieces of the puzzle just fit so nicely for that to happen.
Parramatta team now, right? And he slots in at 6, and all it is really a straight swap for Dylan Brown. Nothing else changes.
Yeah, all things considered, it's the perfect.
Yeah.
But this is a thing. So if Parramatta do pay a ridiculous amount of money for Galvin, which they will, no doubt about it, he didn't knock back $6 million over 5 years for a reason. He knocked it back because he's going to get as much, if not more, somewhere else. So Parramatta haven't learned anything here. They dodged a bullet with letting Dylan Brown go because, paying $13 million for him over 10 years is just ridiculous. They dodged that bullet, but then they're going to go and pay overs for Galvin to join. So typical Parramatta, they learn nothing. They never learn from their mistakes, and that's why they haven't won a premiership since 1986.
We'll see. It'd be funny if in the next couple of weeks Galvin goes to Parramatta now and Dylan Brown goes to Newcastle. Because it could happen right now.
I'll tell you what, I think it would clear up. It would really clear things up for all the clubs concerned. Yeah. If the West Tigers let Galvin go now, that'll be a burden off their shoulders. If Parramatta let Dylan Brown go now, that'll be a burden off their shoulders. If these moves were accelerated, it would really clear the air for these clubs. It's effective.
But the other news article you mentioned before that we thought would be the number one article.
Yeah.
Spencer Lenu had a go at Jonathan Thurston. I got a whole bunch of stuff about this before all the reasoning came out. I got some SMSs.
What'd you get?
So because it all came out. So what happened is Thurston approached Lenu a couple of times, and Lenu kept walking away. until eventually Lenu...
So it was initiated by Thurston, wasn't it?
Well, Thurston was there doing media interviews, and he wanted to interview Lenu.
Yeah.
Thurston
so that's how it started, right?
Thurston apparently had no idea there was beef. But he approached Lenu a couple of times, and has, at other matches apparently, approached him, and Lenu has brushed him multiple times.
So this has happened before?
Yeah. And so then it's all gone over the top for Lenu, and so he's launched a tirade at Thurston, foul-mouthed, called him an F and C and so on. And then it was exacerbated by Lenu then going into the change room and Thurston basically demanding that the Roosters, Robertson or Lenu address it.
Yeah, which was,
And so then Trent Robertson and James Tedesco went out to speak to him. And it was the video footage of that it's not heated, you would say, but it's quite loud.
It's a tense conversation.
Yeah. And so Lenu was in the change room hearing it, and then finally went out and just said, "Just F off, mate."
You know what? If you want my opinion on it, I'm on Team Lenu here.
Yeah.
Because, and I'll tell you why. It goes back to the Ezra Mam thing as well. Now, to give a bit more background to people who might not have seen it, although they probably have. So Lenu is upset with Thurston because after Lenu got that 8-week suspension for what he said to Ezra Mam on the field in Las Vegas last year, Thurston came out and said it should have been a 12-week ban. Now, if we just start with that, for starters, to say that he should have got 12 weeks instead of 8 weeks for that is just ridiculous. Well, if anything, it should have been... I'm not saying that Lenu shouldn't have got anything for that, but I'm saying it should have been much less than 8 weeks. Yeah. 8 weeks was ridiculous, moral high ground, grandstanding.
We talked about it at the time.
It should have been 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. It was
2 or 3.
Racism was twice as bad as
homophobia. Yeah.
And so if it had been 12, it would have been that racism is 3 times as bad as homophobia.
So we start with that. So that's the first point to make here is
8 weeks.
Yeah. So in my opinion, Lenu should have only got 2 or 3 weeks for something that he got 8 weeks for. Yeah. So he's already upset about that in and of itself. Then we get Thurston coming in on his big moral high horse saying that it should have been 12 weeks instead of 8 weeks, which is just ridiculous in my opinion. It shouldn't have been 8 weeks, and it certainly shouldn't have been 12 weeks. That's just completely ridiculous. So then that's got Lenu upset even more. Thurston's come out and said he should have got 12 weeks. Then let's go to the next part of the scenario where Ezra Mam drives a car on the other side of the road under the influence of drugs. Injures the passengers in the car, the Uber driver got injured, a 4-year-old girl got injured, suffered a broken hip, and her mother got injured in the collision. Driving on the other side of the road under the influence of drugs. And he only gets a 9-week suspension from the NRL. He should have got 12 months. It shouldn't have just been 9 weeks. And then Lenu's looking at that and going, oh yeah, you were quick to say that I should have got 12 weeks. But you don't say anything about him only getting 9 weeks. Ezra Mam gets 9 weeks, only 1 week more than Lenu for what Lenu did. Right? Are you kidding me?
Of that, Jonathan Thurston thinks a racist slur should get 12 weeks suspension, but accepts driving on the wrong side of the road under the influence of cocaine while unlicensed and injuring, causing car accident, head-on car collision that causes the injuries to 3 people, accepts a 9-week suspension. So basically what Jonathan Thurston is saying is driving while under the influence of cocaine, while unlicensed, on the wrong side of the road, causing a head-on collision that injures 3 people is less severe than a racist slur.
Yeah, and there were people saying, oh, well, to be fair, it happened in the off-season and Thurston's not on TV shows in the off-season, so he can't talk about it. There are other ways he can talk about it. He can, what, does that mean that he can't be interviewed by anybody because it's the off-season? And that's the thing, when he made the quotes about Lenu in the first instance that it should have been 12 weeks, he actually did that on the Today Show. He didn't do that on an NRL show anyway. So that puts aside that stupid argument of, oh, but it was in the off-season. Well, all right, if it was on the Today Show still runs in the off-season, he could have gone in on the Today Show in the off-season.
Like some people would suggest that the severity of Spencer Lenu's punishment came from people like Jonathan Thurston being so vocal prior to the hearing as well.
Yeah.
You know, and so... I like you said, I'm on Team Lenu.
That's the thing. He doesn't say anything about Ezra Mam.
To go to the dressing room and basically demand.
And that's the thing. Like, he's come up to you. He's given you a spray. Just if you want to give him a spray back, give him a spray back. But don't go and dob him into the coach in the dressing room.
You know, the one really telling thing about this, Spencer Lenu is actually not obligated in any way, shape, or form to talk to any member.
No, that's
so he can choose. No one ever got up Cameron Smith for not talking to Channel 9 for 2 years.
That's the other point to make, and I hate where people say, "Oh, but the players have an obligation to talk to the media because of the TV rights deal and everything." Then you go, who cares about those player interviews? They never say anything interesting. All it is, "Oh yeah, we played well tonight. We completed well," or our first half was great, and our ball control was really good. Those player interviews are so boring. Nobody listens to them anyway. Who cares about these player interviews after games?
If you would have spoken to anyone else, it was only Jonathan Thurston you had a problem with.
And fair enough.
Continuing to pursue it.
And fair enough. And that's the thing. If you're going to come out and say that somebody should have got 12 weeks when they got 8 weeks, when they shouldn't have even got 8 weeks, they should have only got 2 or 3 weeks. If you're going to come out and say that, well, I'm sorry, down the track, if you try and interview that player, the player might tell you to go get effed. Yeah. And if he does, you're going to have to put up with that. I'm sorry. And don't then get a spray from that player, which you probably deserve considering the circumstances. Don't then go and dob him into the coach afterwards in the tunnel.
Ridiculous. To just keep pursuing it, man. Just who do you think you are? Right?
Yeah.
You're Jonathan Thurston, you're an immortal. Not an immortal. Right?
Well, immortal in waiting. And all right, that's the thing. All right, this is the thing. This is the other thing. All right, just because he's Jonathan Thurston, does that mean we have to just agree with what he does because of how great a player he was? That doesn't mean we have to agree with everything that he does just because he's a great player. That doesn't mean that we have to take his side in this just because he has a better list of achievements than Lenu does in the game at this stage.
I haven't really seen anyone think that Jonathan Thurston was in the right, by the way.
But can I just say, and I know that we... I think we're both on Team Lenu here. I think we mount a good case here.
Yeah.
But I would just point out as well that I noticed on the Sunday Footy show on Channel 9, they didn't give one word of, and I know that we agree with Lenu, I get that, and we're on his team here. They didn't give one word of defence to their colleague, Jonathan Thurston here.
Yeah, that's what I mean. No,
they just made some quick mention of it, oh yeah, this has happened, but we're which is I don't know if you ever watched that show, but it's the most boring show on TV. Because all they do is just sit around, and I know there's great players on it, like Andrew Johns, Brad Fittler, Billy Slater. All they do on that show is just sit around and say how great everything is and how nice it is that there's a rainbow out there today and that everything's great and let's all sing songs under a rainbow. That's all they do on that show. They just spend 2 hours saying how great everything is. And so they basically decided with this, strong opinions, nah, we're not going to do that. And they just ducked away from the story and didn't defend Jonathan Thurston, which I thought was pretty weak, to be honest.
I think because they know it's not defendable. I got SMSs from some people before the news broke. It was Lenu and Thurston have gotten into it, and then this is why. Viral shares. And then it was all over the thing. It was that because Thurston just kept.
Yeah, and Thurston said to him, what's your problem? Well, I'll tell you what his problem was. His problem was that you said he should have got 12 weeks when he'd already got 8 weeks for something that he should have only got 2 or 3 weeks for. That was his problem. That was his first problem. His second problem was that someone who committed an offence far worse than him, who he made that comment towards on the field, only got 9 weeks and should have got 12 months, and you didn't say anything about it. And you say, it's because it was the off-season, even though you could have, there's any other number of ways you could have got your opinion out there. Is there a rule that, Jonathan Thurston can't be interviewed in the off-season because it's the off-season? If he wants to talk about something like that, I'm sure the media companies will have him on. Yeah, they're not going to knock him back.
Posted it on social media.
Yeah, that's the thing. These days, you're your own media company with social media. You don't need to be employed by anyone. You can have your own media.
Yeah, I'm Team Spencer.
Yeah, I'm with you.
What's going on at the Panthers, man? Honestly.
Yeah.
They're favourites this week to beat the Roosters.
Well, this is the thing. Like, we keep saying it, don't write them off, don't write them off. We're getting to a point soon. If they don't start winning soon, they're going to be out of top 8 contention. Not many teams make the top 8, being 1-5 after 6 games. I mean, no team has ever won the premiership being 1 win and 5 losses after 6 games. And I tell you what, not many teams come. The Bulldogs actually did it in 2013, and it's sort of similar in that they made the grand final in 2012. They didn't win it. They made the grand final in 2012, and then the next year in 2013 they had a shock horror start. They were 1 win, 5 losses after 6 games. They recovered and made the 8 that year. But not many teams can do it. You go 1-5 after 6 games. A lot of the time, you're not even making the 8 from that position, let alone winning the premiership. Well, nobody's won the premiership from that position.
It's super hard to not tip each week. But they're getting super hard to tip each week. And yeah, they're pretty heavy favourites against the Roosters this week. Roosters already beat them once this year.
This is the thing.
Roosters are coming off a win. Roosters are beating all the top teams and getting smashed by the lower teams.
But you know their attack is actually... This is the thing. Penrith's attack this year, it's actually not that bad. They're still scoring points. They're scoring 22 points a game. But it's their defence is letting them down this year, which has been... Their defence has been the cornerstone of this run of 4 straight premierships. That's what's letting them down this year, not so much their attack. So that gives them some cause of optimism that they can turn this around, is that, well, it's their defence letting them down, not their attack. 22 points a game, this is the thing, that would have won them most of those games in years past. 22 points wins you most games, especially with their defence the way it's been the last 4 years. But not this year. Yeah. Their defence is so bad this year that their defence isn't winning them these games, even though they're scoring 22 points a game.
Well, it's kind of actually the same as the Bulldogs, right? Their defence isn't as good as... Was it? I read it. No, actually, it wasn't. It was the opposite thing. Sorry. The Bulldogs have now taken this ridiculous defence stat away from the Panthers.
Yeah. And they're conceding 11.6 points a game. Yeah. They got the best defence in the comp. After having the worst defence in the comp by a mile in 2023, they've turned that around and they're now the best defensive team in the comp.
The Panthers against is 170.
Yeah.
And the Bulldogs against is 58. The next closest for the defence is the Knights, 86.
So is it fair to say that the Bulldogs are the club that have really... basically stolen Penrith's blueprint. When you think about, they've taken...
They go to the same wrestling gym.
Well, but in terms of personnel, Serraldo was Penrith's defensive coach. He goes to the Bulldogs. They recruit Burton, Crichton, Kickout.
Yeah, and they head to Camden Valley Wrestling, right?
Yeah. So the Bulldogs and the general manager as well, Phil Gould. Yeah. So they've taken the general manager, they've taken the defensive coach, made them the head coach, and they've taken 3-star players off Penrith, and now they're Penrith. They're on top of the ladder. Yeah, that's what's happening.
It's crazy how little points they're letting in. And like I said, it's 58 only, and the next is the Knights at 86.
When I say they're Penrith, I'm a bit over the top there. All they're doing is they're on top of the ladder. Yeah. They haven't won anything yet, but I'm just saying that when you look at it like that, they've really taken the fabric of Penrith and just moved it from Penrith to Belmore.
I can't wait to send that clip at the beginning of the year to Mitchell Pearce where I said it's going to be the Bulldogs.
You did say that, didn't you?
And he looked at me and went, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah.
I'm going to send it to him. When they're in the grand final, I'm going to send that to him like, no, I wasn't.
Yeah, so, look, there's a long way to go here. We will point that out. But, I mean, so far... your prediction can't be faulted, right? As we can only talk about what's happened so far. We can't. We don't know what's going to happen for the rest of the season. But so far, I think your prediction is holding up here.
The rule is the top 2 defensive teams win the competition. The top 2 defensive teams right now are the Bulldogs and the Knights, and then Melbourne is the third. So it's only the Bulldogs and Knights who win the competition.
That's the thing. I mean, the Melbourne Storm are the overwhelming premiership favourites at the moment, but if you are a Bulldogs fan, which I am, then the one thing that you're optimistic about if you're thinking about a Melbourne v Bulldogs matchup is the Bulldogs' defence.
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy. They've still got like that.
And that gives them a chance.
They have a bunch of negative defensive stats as well. Top 5 missed tackles. I don't think it's missed tackles, ineffective tackles, stuff like that. But they're still not letting tries in.
The only thing we would say so far is the Bulldogs haven't beaten a team who's currently in the top 8. That's one thing that I would say.
Play who's in front of you, mate.
That's it, right? That's it. So we'll see. I mean, they're going to play the Rabbitohs tomorrow.
Yep.
And the Rabbitohs are 5th, so we'll see how they go against the top 8 team.
With Latrell on fire, throwing forward passes for tries.
Yeah, they were a bit off last week against the Cowboys, though, the Rabbits.
Yeah, when they beat the...
But they beat the Roosters the week before, yeah.
Threw a massively forward pass off Latrell to get him one of the tries. That was
he did, didn't he?
So far forward. No more forward than the Dragons try the other day with the Titans, but... we were talking about Jamal Fogerty before. Apparently he's looking like he's going to Manly. Ricky Stewart's having a bit of a go at Manly, I guess. I don't really know what the anti-tampering rules say. It's like you're not allowed to talk to the player, right? But Manly have come out publicly and said they're interested in signing Jamal Fogerty. They haven't approached the player or his agent. They've just come out and said it publicly. And Ricky Stewart's not happy with that because they want to keep Fogerty.
Yeah, these are some quotes from Ricky Stewart. He says, "We want to keep Jamal and we'll know early this week whether there has been contract negotiations with Manly or not over the last 2 or 3 weeks, which we keep hearing, even though you're not allowed to do it," he says. So he's in charge of what's right and wrong, even though he blames the referee when his team loses by 28 points. But anyway, I'll continue. He says, "We will sit down with Jamal early in the week and we will tell him exactly what we've got. He was very happy in regards to what I discussed with him early this week. So I'll know if there's been prior communication with Manly. I want to keep Jamal here." That's what he said.
But they say that goes back to the whole thing. Anti-tampering is you're not allowed to talk to the player agent and all that about signing him. But if a club comes out publicly and says we're interested in signing this player before the deadline, isn't that really the same thing?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, we
very rarely agree with Ricky Stewart, but I kind of actually agree with him here.
But you know that these comments came after they won 50-12 over the Eels, so he has to complain. Even when they win, he finds something to complain about. He's never satisfied, is he? Never.
No, never. It was Todd Payton, coached by Ricky Stewart last week conversation we had.
But you know what? I think there's something in this. Again, Fogerty, he's a player who you're not going to be. You wouldn't want to be paying over $1 million a year for him.
No.
But
they're not going to.
But this is the thing. This is where it's like there's this new movement towards these halfbacks like Sexton and Fogerty, where you don't pay a huge amount of money for them, but they get the job done and they don't ruin your salary cap. These are the types of players who clubs should be looking at now. Players who are playing above their value, like Sexton, like Fogerty. I think this is a far more effective salary cap model.
Yeah, well, I think halfbacks historically, we talked about it at length for the past 2 years. There's no halves around really. Superstar halves. 15, 20 years ago, every team had a superstar halves pairing. And now not so much. And I think the structure that's come into the game on the 7 and the 6 have made them less, not unimportant, but less important. And fullbacks have become actually the key. You need those guys out the back coming off the 7 and the 6 that are playing set to their sides of the field. You don't have Jonathan Thurstons and Andrew Johnsons anymore. You have Reece Walsh and Dylan Edwards. The only real hardcore, like we discussed it before, like there's Nathan Cleary, then there's Daylight, then there's like Daly Cherry Evans, Mitchell Moses, then there's more Daylight, and a bunch of guys. And there are a couple of clubs that are lucky enough to have halfbacks that are on a good amount of money that perfectly suits the quality of their game that are doing the job. And Fogerty is one of them.
Yeah, and so you can see why he wants to keep Fogerty.
Yeah.
So I'm with him on that. I get that. I get why he wants to keep Fogerty because the Raiders are in the top 4 with him there. Yeah. And if he leaves, well, I know they've got some others in their system like Ethan Strange and Ethan Sanders as well. But, Fogerty is the type of half you would want.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay overs for him and he gets the job done. This idea that you got to pay, just because halves are commanding over $1 million a year, that doesn't mean that you have to go down that path and pay that amount of money for them. There's other ways of going about it. Sexton's team's on top of the ladder now. Fogerty's team's in the top 4. There are other ways of going about it here.
Some club threw $1 million at Sexton. Of course, Sexton would take it, but that club would be making a mistake.
That's right. That's right. Of course, he would take it. You couldn't blame him. Hey, if people offer you more money, you take it, right? That's the world we live in.
Yeah, it's that's the suspect nature in which Manly is, or any club is allowed to go into the media and say we are interested in signing this player. Actually, I liken it to Twitter. Twitter was invented by Jack Dorsey because he wanted to make a public ICQ. So ICQ was like the first popular instant messaging program, right? It became like MSN and all these other ones. And he wanted to make a public ICQ where I could write something and promote it to everyone. So I'm no longer talking directly to an individual. But if I'm talking about you publicly, then I am talking to you. So for Manly to go out public and say, yeah, we would be interested in signing Fogerty, they're telling them, agent and the player, get ready to negotiate to us. So they've negotiate with us. So they've technically begun negotiations. And I can understand where Ricky Stewart's coming from.
Yeah.
Especially now we've got this whole Galvin at Parramatta thing. Like, clubs are once again finding loopholes.
Yeah.
To go around these rules that we have in place for a reason.
Yeah, it might be poor form for Manly to be talking to Fogerty even though they're not allowed to do it.
Talking to him. They're talking publicly.
Yeah.
That's their justification.
Talking to him through public statements.
Yeah.
It may be poor form for Manly to do that. It's also poor form to blame the ref when you lose by 28 points too.
It's also poor form to yell at Manly when you won by 50 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Over to Lachlan Galvin's new club.
Yes.
They're in the same place as Penrith right now. They just cannot score points. They're clearly missing
Mitchell Moses. They're lucky he's back this week.
This is a continuation of them from last year. Like we did... Brad Arthur was obviously let go in weird circumstances last year, and then Parramatta went for the spoon bowl in the last round, ended up going to West Tigers. But it's no different now, second last round. No different now. They're just continuing last year, and I think Jason Riles expects a wooden spoon.
This is the thing. Sometimes, in defence of Riles, and maybe it was the case with Serraldo in 2023 at the Bulldogs. Maybe you have to get worse before you get better.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe you have to. And this is the thing. I saw some comments saying, "Oh, were they right to let Clint Gutherson go?" And it's like, look, if Clint Gutherson was there, all right, they might have come 14th instead of 17th, right? But maybe by letting him go, they're clearing the decks so that they can get the rebuild underway here. Clint Gutherson clearly wasn't the player who was going to get Parramatta into the top 8. He just wasn't that player. Again, he's a player who they might have come 14th with and not 17th. But Clint Gutherson, I think his time had come at Parramatta. They needed to look in another direction. So I don't think it's, again, maybe this is Parramatta's year where they have to get worse before they get better. Maybe this is the year. The thing is, we don't know that, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
They might continue to get worse. We don't. It depends what they do from here. But maybe this was the first step of going, we need a year where we've got to get worse. Again, the Bulldogs were worse in 2023 than they were in 2022.
Yeah, way worse.
But that was their springboard to have the 2024 and 2025 that they've now had.
Yeah.
And is this the same with Parramatta? Is this there? Is 2025 for Parramatta the 2023 that the Bulldogs had? And will 25 and 26, where they have Moses hopefully fit and perhaps Lachlan Galvin, if this accelerates and he gets out early, is this their springboard to have a better 25 and 26? We'll see what happens. We don't know.
Yeah. Obviously, Mitchell Moses coming back is a big thing. We'll see what happens this week, especially with the Tigers and with all their off-field drama. But look, Parramatta, when you look through their run, with the way they've been playing, you can't tip them. You know, I mean, the way they've been playing, you don't expect them to win another game for the rest of the year.
Yeah, you just reminded me. I've got to give you my tips after this. Yeah, I won't be tipping them this week. Yeah.
The Parramatta faithful just have to be faithful and hope for the best and see if it is. I've said right from the very beginning, I think they're in a Serraldo situation. They've got a whole bunch of dead wood in their club that they've got to offload. Even some of them were senior players. Yes, the Dragons took some of them.
Yes, it's part of the Serraldo situation. It's the first part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And now we see what they do in the second stage of it, which is
next year.
Serraldo got everything right. We don't know if they're going to get everything right. We'll see what happens. But maybe this is the first stage of it. But this is the thing. It might go the other way for them. Their next moves might all be the wrong moves and they go nowhere.
Absolutely.
And it is Parramatta we're talking about, so there's a good chance that they do continue to go nowhere.
Yes.
But
we'll see what happens on Monday. I think that'll be really telling for both the Eels and...
Yeah, and again, like you said, look, Parramatta are not going to do anything this year, but hopefully with Moses back, they put on a better performance. They want to see some... Again, like you said, they don't have to win the game, but they would want to see some improvement there.
Yeah,
definitely. Yep.
So you going to the game on Good Friday? That'd be a freaking nightmare.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I might.
It'd be a nightmare. It's Good Friday.
You reckon it'll
be Easter show, and there's going to be they've already sold 40,000. I don't know. Yesterday they had already sold 40,000 tickets.
So this talk was going to be 70,000.
It's entirely possible.
Do you advise against me going?
I would definitely not go. I would never go to the Easter show on Good Friday, right? Because Good Friday is their busiest day. First of all, I would never go to the Easter show. I hate it so much. It is the thing I hate most in the world. They always have too many people in there. It's all garbage. It's all overpriced. But I would never go on Good Friday because that's when they have their busiest day. Chuck in
70,000
people going to the football game, and it's at 4:05 p.m. And I think because the Easter show has cheaper tickets in the afternoon, right? You can buy an afternoon ticket, and I think that's around the time, either that when the game starts or when the game finishes, around the time that people also will come on those cheaper tickets. So it's I know a lot of people go to the Easter show and then go to the game afterwards, but yeah, I mean it'll be awesome to see.
But it's going to be bedlam.
Yeah. The transport there is just not built to handle the Easter show and 70,000 people going to ANZ. What's it called now?
Accor, yeah.
Accor at the same time.
Yeah. And I'm a bit of an introvert, so you know what I mean. I'm not the type who likes the big crowd. So yeah. maybe I'm better off passing on this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's supposed
cracking of a show.
Yeah, it is supposed to. So apparently the previous record of the highest regular season crowd, 59,708 when the Roosters beat the Rabbitohs in the final round of the 2013 season. So there is a good chance that gets broken tomorrow at Accor with the Bulldogs and Rabbitohs traditional Good Friday showdown here.
Yeah, it's like I said yesterday, it had been it was 40,000 tickets had already been sold.
Do you think they win that game, the Bulldogs? What do you reckon? You don't know. That's the thing. They're going to have to drop. They're going to have to drop a game at some point, right? They're not going to win every week.
Is Latrell's playing 6? That's right. They've had to put Latrell in at 6
because Humphreys is out, and so Walker's back from injury. Humphreys is out, so Walker's at 7, Latrell's at 6, and Dodd. Lewis Dodd, he's going to play off the bench. So I think what Bennett might do is there's an option for him there when Dodd comes on to move Latrell into the centres there.
Ewan Aitken's playing in 3. I don't know, man. That's a hard call.
Because that's the thing, they are going to slip up at some stage here. They're not going to win every week.
You look at it, right, and you look at the Bulldogs
forwards. Burton is back, though.
Yeah,
he's been named, and kick hours in the reserves. Yeah, so he may be a late inclusion here.
But you look at the Bulldogs forwards and you just think, they'll never be able to stand over Jai Arrow and Kalamatangi and Totola. But then they've been standing over everyone.
That's the thing, that's not an on-paper scenario with them. Because you look at their team on paper and you go, there's nothing spectacular.
How does Daniel Saluka Fafita get it over to Totola?
But it just works.
But yeah, he does.
They hunt as a pack and it works for them.
So I don't know. I'm going to decide my tip later, but it's going to be a cracker of a game. I'm going to the Fairfield show. I'm happy. I'll go to the Fairfield show. I won't go to the Easter show. Fairfield show's a gold coin donation to get in, $30 for an all-day ride pass. So.
Yeah, right. You've worked that all out, eh?
My kids went last year, and then my daughter wants to go again because she needs someone to go on the rides with her. So that's me.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, I'll get home in time to watch that one. We'll see how it goes. I think it'll be the game of the round. That game tonight is going to be awful. That's the
Manly and St George.
I don't think I'll be tipping the Dragons. I don't know. I'm not saying my tips on the bloody podcast, but I don't think I'll be tipping them. Storm are going to demolish the Dolphins. Broncos are probably going to bounce back.
Do you not say it because people go, "Oh, you were wrong"? Is that what?
No, it's because I don't really know. If you look at last year in the tipping comp, the first few rounds we did tips on the podcast, and I stuck with them. But I actually go around.
Oh, because you don't want to say because then you're tied to it. Yeah.
So 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock each Thursday, I kind of go and do heaps of research into who I'm tipping. Check team player stats, stuff like that.
I need a disclaimer. None of my tips are locked in. I haven't decided yet. Disregard what I said before.
But I reckon the Tigers will probably get the Eels. But that's even a hard one to call with the return of Moses and all that off-field drama with the Tigers. Like I said at the beginning, it'll be really telling if Jerome Luai is able to rally the Tigers around to overcome that off-field stuff. Because you got to remember at Penrith, Jerome Luai had a lot of off-field stuff. And he seems like he was the leader that got them to
this is the thing. There are some clubs who can handle the off-field drama.
And the Tigers are not one of them.
No.
But you got to see, maybe that's changed.
Yeah, it has. Again, it's hard to change the culture of a club. It's hard to come in and change the culture of a club that's won 3 straight wooden spoons. But you got to start somewhere. And look, I think it has changed somewhat. I mean, it's going to take a lot to change it from where it was at the end of last season. But let's see if it's changed enough for them to have a positive response on the field to the week that's been.
It'd be interesting if they come out and just smash Parramatta by 60 or something like that.
Yeah.
And every Tigers fan should really take that. If they get beat, I think really the Tigers fans should fire all the board again.
Yeah. Hey, anything could happen. Yeah. This week shows anything could happen. Who knows what happens next week?
But that's it for Rugby League. Obviously, Lachlan Galvin is the Rugby League, probably for the next few weeks.
Yes.
Over to tennis. Tennis never finishes. It just goes all year. That's why the tennis players kind of complain a lot about how many games they have to play.
Yeah.
But Alex de Minaur's reached the semi-finals of the Monte Carlo Masters.
Yeah, he did. It was a good run for de Minaur, really a good run. To reach the semis of any Masters event is a great effort, but for an Aussie to do it on clay is a great effort. Traditionally, Australians don't perform well on the clay. That's just the way it is. There's no clay courts in Australia. The European kids are brought up on the clay, whereas in Australia they play all their tennis on pretty much either synthetic grass or grass. So we always traditionally do a lot better at Wimbledon than we do at the French Open, our players. But yeah, well done to de Minaur. Great effort getting to the semis at Monte Carlo. Lost to Italy's Lorenzo Musetti in a tiebreaker in the third, so he got close to making the final.
Did he have to play 2 games in one day, Musetti?
Well, let's have a look here. Where are you getting that
Google, from? Monte Carlo Masters draw.
Yeah, okay. Google, let's just have a look. Oh, it's not coming up for me. Have you got him playing? Is there 2 matches where...
Saturday, 12th of April. Quarterfinal. Musetti versus Tsitsipas.
Yeah.
Semi-final, the Musetti versus de Minaur.
So there's the same date on 2 matches, is that right?
Saturday, 12th of April.
So what I'd say might have happened is... What I think has happened, is that the first match has finished in the early hours of the morning, our time, which is, say if it was... I don't know, I don't have it in front of me, but say the match finished in the early hours on Saturday, our time, it'll be Friday there. And then I reckon what's happened is the next match has probably started like late at night Saturday here, whereas there it's on Saturday, right? Yeah. So it's the day after there, but it's the same day here. I think that's what's happened.
Even then, it's still like amazing that he was able to win 2 in a row.
But yeah, Minaur, well done. He won the first set 6-1 against Musetti. Couldn't get that done. But he had 2 huge wins on the way to the semis. He beat Danil Medvedev 6-2, 6-2. And he double-bageled Grigor Dimitrov in the quarterfinals. 6-love, 6-love. So well done to Alex Minaur there. Great results for him. He just keeps performing, doesn't he? He's Mr. Consistent, keeps getting to the quarters, semis of all these major events. He's a very consistent performer. So good on him. A really good result. And going into the French Open.
Ended up winning.
Yes, he did. He beat Musetti in the final. But Novak Djokovic didn't have the same luck. Lost his first match at the Monte Carlo Masters. So we've got this very, it's sort of rocks or diamonds from Novak Djokovic at the moment. He made the final of that Miami Masters event only just before this Monte Carlo one, and then he gets to Monte Carlo and he crashes out. It was the second round, but it was one of those, he had the bye in the first round, so, he lost his first match at Monte Carlo, even though it was the second round there.
Yeah, it might be coming up to retirement time, bro.
It's funny because one week he goes well and we say, he's not done yet. The next week he's out early in the tournament. He's done. He should retire after this.
You got to see. End of the year, I think, is the decision time for him.
I still think there's a good chance. If I had to say one way or another, will he be at the Australian Open next year? I'd say no. Yeah. Even now, I'd say that there's more chance that he won't be there.
Yeah, I think so. And then finally in sport, Rory McIlroy has erased his wife from history.
Yeah, that was
career grand
so. What did he do? What did he do there? Did he
posted some photos or something with her cut out of it or something like that?
Did he really? Yeah. So is he split with his wife? Has he?
I guess so.
What's happened? Right.
But it's funny, like that's the whole thing. So what he's done is actually he's won a Grand Slam.
Yeah, career Grand Slam, yeah. So he's finally got the one that eluded him for so long. He's won the US Masters.
But then the news article... news articles just came about that.
About his wife.
Yeah, he didn't name her as a member of his support system.
So is he currently married to her and they're separated? Yeah. Is that so? They're married but separated, and they.
She filed for divorce the day after Mother's Day.
Oh, so that was. How long ago was...
in other countries, Mother's Day was a different month ago.
Oh, actually, yeah, Mother's Day hasn't come for us
yet,
has it?
For us, for Australia, for some reason.
That's good, I didn't forget about it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to a seminar with Celcinio Vinicius on that day, so I hope my wife doesn't mind. One of my friends said the advertising for the seminar should be, you can see your mother every day, but you can only see Celcinio today. You'll be alright, Sam. Okay, cool. You can cook yourself some dinner and I'll come home and eat it. I better cut that one out.
yeah, you might have to do some editing. But well done to Rory McIlroy. It's 11 years since he last won a major before that one. And that career Grand Slam now, he's won all the golf majors. So he won a playoff against Justin Rose. And he sort of lost it and then won it again. He had a 2-shot lead that he lost in 2 holes, and then he had a 4-shot lead that he lost in 3 holes, and then he eventually won it in a playoff.
So the purse for that was $21 million.
Not bad.
I need to get into golf.
It's a lot more than you get for winning a tennis major.
Far out. That's it in sport for the week. Don't forget to order your CBD from Optimum CBD. Craig asked me the other day, one of our fans, Do you actually use the CBD? Yes, I actually use the CBD. I take it every day. Need to actually order some more gummies for my morning, but it helps you with your recovery. It's an anti-inflammatory, so it helps you with injuries. You must be over 18 to order, obviously, and orders over $99 get free delivery. Sign up at SmartB and play the daily fantasy sports. It's cool because you don't have to commit to a whole season. You can play for free, or you can pay and try and win some real cash prizes. Getting to the tipping comp, someone different is winning the weekly prize every week. Mitchell Pearce is currently winning the overall competition in the global rankings. Try and beat Pearcey and you can win 10 grand at the end of the year. The AFL, I'm currently winning. Full power to me. There's like 3 people on the same tide though. I've just currently got a better points margin, so I've got to keep ahead of that. But yeah, different winner every week. You might not be able to win the 10k prize if you start now, but you can definitely win the $100 if you're the best tipster of the round. That's not the person who has tipped overall and sitting at the number 1 of the round. It's the person who tips the best specifically for that round. And it seems like people are constantly tipping 8 from 8. I don't know how they do it, but those people should be putting multis on. Although the AFL, actually, to be honest, the AFL tipping's been really easy this year. There haven't been that many upsets.
Predictable.
Yeah, it's really predictable. So even when I've tipped like 8 from 8, 12 other people have also tipped 8 from 8.
Yeah, right.
I got like the other week, 2 weeks ago, I tipped 7 from 8, and like 13 people or 18 people who tipped 8 from 8 above me. You know, like. So yeah, it's but it's a different person winning every week. Get your $100, just verify your identity. And don't forget to follow at SmartB app on all social media platforms. And we'll see you all on the flip side.